to unmute yourself if you want. I see you there.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, so nice. Good.
All right. Yeah. So I was able to get out to a friend's farm here recently. Had a really big Memorial Day event, which went over really nice. We got a chance to sit down and speak briefly. I told him that I was just getting started with grant writing, and he expressed his interest and that he would greatly appreciate any assistance. So with that, I kind of feel compelled to kind of watch the how much I'm charging.
Yeah.
For one, based on friendship. For another, it is a nonprofit farm that everything that he farms goes direct to the community. He doesn't charge anybody for anything. So I want to assist. So what my initial thought was, okay, maybe I could forego the cost of funding strategy, which would be dwindling down, how many different grants I could find, and maybe charge for the grant writing itself once we establish that relationship and that understanding. So that was my thought, and that was where my question came from.
Yeah, it's a great question. So because it's one of your first grants and you're just getting started with this, it is totally fair to do the friend and family discount. I still encourage you to charge something because it's what allows you to really establish, hey, I am your friend, but this is like us interacting in a more professional capacity. And I'd also it just yields better results. They're more engaged when they realize like, okay, I'm paying real money for this. I'm going to really pay attention and participate in the process, especially when the ROI is very obvious. Like, okay, we focus on the right grants. All of a sudden, you're going from spending $500 on a funding strategy to hopefully securing $20, $30, $50,000, right? So I would encourage you to charge at least $500, which is like the bottom that we would ever recommend charging, and letting them know this is severely discounted. You could put, typical fee is $2,500. You could do the subtract 2,000 friend and family discount for $500 for them. So I would, if you really don't want to, you don't have to, but I do encourage you to, because you incur costs to do this. You've got a grant database to go cover, et cetera. And I know you're going to be successful in finding grant funding for them. It's also going to be important that even though he does give to the community, he still needs to have a way to prove viability. And so maybe there are certain parts of his business model that need to charge a little bit because it gives him some more operational funds to work with. In terms of what to charge, definitely never ever by the hour, unless you really don't know what something is going to take to complete. But in this situation, we know how to get our arms around it. So charge by percent of work complete, or 50% upfront, or upon completion. Or if it's only $500, just say you charge that upon completion. That would be easy too. And even if you decided to do it free, Tandon, I would, even though I hope you don't, I hope you charge at least $500. You've got to put together a contract that outlines that, which is in the course. Like, here's the funding strategy contract. Because that also helps set the context for, okay, and then you'll pay me for when we get into the grant writing phase. Because here's one of the other challenges that you're going to face. So even if you did this for free and then it comes grant writing phase, they're going to still not have any money. And that's when it becomes more costly to prepare. So how are you going to get compensated for that? You cannot be paid from the grant retroactively. And you can't guarantee that they would win grants. We're just doing our best to improve those odds. So it is helpful to get into that habit of, like, you pay for the service up front. Whoever delivers seeds to his farm or any sort of service doesn't say like, well, you can, don't charge me this time. I'll get you for the seeds next year, right? Like they do charge for their services. So I encourage you to do that, especially because I know you'll be successful. We have a funding strategy we did for sort of a similar type organization we could drum up for you and send over. I don't know if it's super relevant because it was an Alaska-based organization, but it was. There's a lot of interesting USDA funding that I think this nonprofit would be eligible for. So does that set you up for success? Do you have any other questions in terms of how you want to tackle this?
No, it really does, and I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm going to get started here briefly, And we had a really nice sit down and kind of just threw some ideas out there. But I think by the time that it gets to contract and getting it down on paper, that we'll be able to talk the business side. And that's it. Just wanted to get your take on it, but you totally nailed it. Uh, I see the friends and family happening, but definitely all of the time that I'm going to be spending on this, I would love to be compensated for as well. So
Oh
don't
yeah,
want to get off on the wrong foot. So thank you so
totally.
much for answering the question so well.
Yeah, yeah. Two last bits of advice. Number one, definitely go leverage the sample contract we have in the course because it makes it so much easier for you to go negotiate that. It's just there, it's built. Go massage it, it's otherwise done. Number two, you can do this because you're just getting started, but I got to the point where I will not do and would not do work for friends because I felt guilty charging my service fees, right? Like a client could
Agreed.
become a friend, but I preferred to have clients that were not friends. And I give this example in module 4, so you'll get to go see it. A friend, yeah, contracted us, and I felt like I couldn't charge him more than like, what was it, $2,500 for a funding strategy. And realistically, we did like $6,000 of work on this thing because it was actually very complicated. I mean, I lost money serving him. So it's just like, I cannot serve friends because I don't feel comfortable charging them the fees that I would otherwise charge. So after that, just made a rule like no friends no friend work, only if you can become a friend after the fact, but not in the beginning. But that's just where I got to that point, and you will get there too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All righty. So let's chat about Kate. We're gonna be Kate back up here. So how to handle vague funding guidelines. So she's been seeing a few funders that have somewhat vague requests, like there's no application that you can see. They say reach out to the local affiliate. We'll consider grant or requests with the project description, supporting documentation, and a cover letter. But yeah, so you're trying to figure out how do I handle this situation? Reach out. Reach out. That's the only action item you need to take. And you can, in an easy way to reach out to is say, hey, I'm just trying to get some clarification on, I think you're going to be a good fit. Like we're a good fit for each other. It's always about what they get out of it. With this organization that I'm helping find grant funding on behalf, but I couldn't fully suss that out on your website. Can we have a 20-minute call? Ideally, you have a prospectus you can give them, which provides them with the project description, because that's what they want, some sort of substance to understand. But otherwise, just try to get the phone call set up. Like that's what matters. Get a call, start asking your questions. So prep your project prospectus, come prepared with the questions that you want to ask them. All of that's in the course. And then you'll be able to draw out, okay, are they in fact a good fit or not? So it is common, especially with smaller organizations, they are vague, but all you got to do is just kind of reach beyond the online presence to the real human being, and you'll unlock the information you're looking for.
Okay, good. Thank you. Because I saw some of those and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Especially after reading federal guidelines and just like,
Yeah.
they're so different.
They're so different. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm full of questions, but there's a grant that I came across that's due July 27th. It's a federal grant. Is that possible or more
totally
impossible?
Doable.
Oh, it's doable. Okay.
I mean, it's doable if the following things are true. Does the applicant have their act together? Are they responsive? Do you have like some project planning done that you can, it's not like just an idea. And, if those two things are true and they pay you to do it, right? You've got your contract executed. You can absolutely pull it off in that time frame.
Okay.
A federal grant project from beginning to end for us was typically 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So, you just have to be really stingy on the schedule, like sticking to that schedule, because federal grants have lots of moving parts. And it really just comes down to, is this client going to be awesome about it? And can you establish that seriousness right from the get-go?
Right.
Get your contract signed and then launch into the process we teach, like have a baller kickoff meeting, right? Like very, really organized, have your grant narrative skeleton prepped, like all the stuff that we talk about. So when you roll into one of these and you set the pace at the beginning, you're very likely to succeed with it. It's just when we're a little too laissez-faire about it, like, well, it's all the way out till July 27th, I'm good, that we run into problems. So
right.
Yeah, but no, not unreasonable. You could definitely do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Meredith.
Yeah. And in fact, you actually had one more question. You were saying, what's an appropriate fee for a letter of inquiry?
Yeah.
So I just went and grabbed these. This is from the course, module 4. I don't know which one, 4.3. And so if it's a straightforward letter of inquiry, etc., yeah, usually this is what happens. Letters of inquiry can still take a lot of time to prepare. But what I like to do is maybe there's 3 funding sources that you're not quite sure if you're going to be invited or not, and they require a letter of inquiry. So I like to batch those together to kind of lower the cost of them individually, because you're going to do all of that work at one time and also get the answer about at the same time, like, hey, were all 3 of these accepted or not? So think that through. If it's just one, charge, I'd say more than 400. Letter of inquiries it depends on how much it takes to do, right? I mean, are we talking about the 2-page letter and that's it? Or are they also wanting you to attach a bunch of supporting documentation? So this is where you go get the cost calculator and you really kind of think about it. How many hours is it going to take for me to do this? And then back into your fee that way. Does that help?
Yeah, that does help. Thank you, Meredith.